You're listening to For Wales, See Wales. And if you want to know what's going on in Welsh politics at the moment, you're in exactly the right place. But for the time being, just give us a minute to hear from our sponsors.
You know what I drove past today on my way into work?
Go on.
A massive billboard for Hello Starling.
Our sponsor.
Our sponsor.
Oh, love it. Because Hello Starling are very, very good at getting attention.
They got my attention, nearly crashed the car.
We're so grateful that you're here.
Yeah.
So Hello Starling are media planning and buying specialists. So they specialise in getting your brand product, whatever it is, in front of people. And they do it in loads and loads of different ways. But what I kind of want to talk about this week is about how it's really easy to just spend money putting products out there and getting advertising, stuff like that. What you need is measure to understand whether it's worked or not. And that is, when I've worked with them, what I've really, really liked is essentially how much they are all about valuing the right metrics. Because there is a trap that you can fall into, especially, and this is a big thing for like online news, where we'll sell an advert and it will say, for instance, oh yeah, 1 million people saw your advert.
Yeah.
But I mean, how often, either in the digital world or in like the actual real world where the humans are, how often do you see stuff and you see it, but that doesn't mean that's done anything.
No, you see it for a third of a second, you kept scrolling or you kept walking. It doesn't really count, does it?
Totally.
Yeah. The great thing is, if you have used them to plan your campaign, you know that you're going to be able to measure the success of that campaign in a way that actually stands up, and you know that whether you've got a return on that investment. And because they do this for all their campaigns, they know what works.
With some sweet, sweet data. That's what's nice. Some proof. Some evidence.
Yes.
Nice.
If you are a marketing manager, you are a chief exec, you want to highlight your brand or your product, please go to hellostarling.co.uk.
And you'll get the eyes of Robin Morgan. I spotted them.
Hello and welcome to For Wales, See Wales with me, Mel Owen.
Me, Robin Morgan.
Me, Will Hayward.
So we're recording this post Rexom. You guys won't have heard Rexom yet if you weren't there, but we had an excellent time.
It was really nice. If you were there, huge thank you.
Yes, it was great.
It was a great crowd, wasn't it?
They were fun.
They were really, really fun. Really,
Saturday night crowd.
Yeah,
You know?
Saturday night in Wrexham.
Saturday.
It's great.
Yeah.
We had a wonderful guest.
We did. Who did we have, Mel?
We had Llyr Griffith, who joined us for the second half, answered some questions. We talked about Plaid going into this election. We talked about the challenges that they're facing. And also just you had a great quiz for us. Tell us all about it.
It was a fun quiz
Yeah.
based on my teenage death metal band Black Despondency. I've had a few people message me about the quiz in the run-up to the Wrexham show, asking to hear more about it, and we listened to some songs.
We did.
We had a slow dance. It was. There was one point I realised that I was forcing an elected member of the Senedd to listen to music and lyrics that I wrote as a 14-year-old.
He leant into it, to be fair.
He did. He was feeling it. Yeah.
I think I could get him to join the band.
Well, he had been in a band.
What is it about our elected representatives that they were all in bands?
So him, Reen, who else?
Hugh Ranker Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, people keep sending me the link to this counsellor or something that was like bopping in the chamber. Have you seen this?
Oh, was this the one in America who was like, basically he didn't get his way, so he started just like breakdancing?
Yeah, to protest is not getting his way. Like you say, he just started breakdancing in the chamber.
Wow.
And, I think on a light week, when we've not got much to talk about,
Sure.
I think we could have a little talk about who we think would be the best dance from the Senedd. I think it's good to really consider these things.
We should also try and, with all future guests, try and convince one of them to do it.
Yeah.
To do a dance of their choice.
I'm not saying we're going to bribe them, but we're going to bribe them with love.
Yeah, and affection.
Yeah.
And make it seem like we'd be so disappointed if they didn't.
What do you think the maddest thing that's ever happened in that chamber has been?
In the Senedd? Well, I don't think any mad shit's really gone down.
We talk about this, don't we? It being slightly different to the Commons. Like,
Yeah.
we've not had a Rees-Mogg lying on the sofas type thing, haven't we? We haven't had Black Rod bursting his way in.
You lost, Black Rod. You lost. Go home.
We need a Black Rod, I think, in our shambles.
I'd love to be Black Rod.
Yeah.
I really would.
What would you go full sort of like, because they dress up in proper crown and frills, right?
Believe me, I would. So hard. Yeah, absolutely. I'd have a little cane.
Yeah, that's fun.
I would have a cane. I'd be knocking on those.
It's a lot of glass, though. It's a lot of when you just smash the glass.
Yeah, I do, and I knock hard, don't I?
Like a wrestler's entrance.
Yeah.
When you arrive at the Heyman Studios, you've got a knock.
I have got a knock.
Yeah, it's a very distinctive knock.
Yeah, imagine me, but with a cane on that glass.
Yeah.
There would be peril.
A few cocktails in. You've been down the bay. There's a Wetherspoons there.
Eli Jenkins, I've been down there.
Down the Eli.
Yeah.
Just before we move on from Wrexham, what I really liked is there's a coffee place there called Bank Street Social, and they put out an A-frame on the street which said, "For Wales, see Wales, for coffee, see Bank Street."
So clever.
Yeah.
Very, very sweet.
Shout out to them.
Shout out to them. And also, you didn't get permission to use our brand name. We're going to sue you. We're absolutely coming for you.
Do you know, that made me feel a little bit like Oasis or Ariana Grande.
They changed the tube signs. Yeah, that was our equivalent.
Bit.
Yeah, it was cute.
Did.
It's very sweet.
So this question has come on Instagram from Tristan Bevan. And what a Welsh name.
Very strong.
Diolch, Tristan.
Yeah.
Tristan. Fuck God's sake.
Christian.
Keep it in. It was good.
Diolch yn fawr o galon i chi gyd.
There you go. That was
Yes.
to all our listeners.
Well done.
Thank you.
You whipped that out many times in Wrexham.
I feel very confident doing that because, as we know, when I try and pronounce Welsh and I overthink it, it doesn't work. But that was what Mark Drakeford used to say at the start of every single Welsh government COVID conference.
Sure.
So I heard him say that at some points every day for 3 months.
Yeah, true.
So I just got used to hearing it.
That was
Yeah.
his next slide, please, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was his
Yeah,
version
yeah,
of the
yeah,
witty,
Yeah.
the witty line.
I wonder how witty he is.
Yeah. Do you reckon he's still got PowerPoint? Do you reckon he misses it?
Yeah, I reckon every day he does one to his partner. He's like, next
So
slide, please.
it's the bi-weekly bin collection. So this week it's greens this week.
Now the trick is to put the bin out at just the right moment. We don't want to go too early. We need to wait till
You're not allowed to go early, are you? You'll get a fine if you go early.
We've got to wait till the B number is above 1.
Guys, we're sick of hearing from experts. Come on. Right, Tristan Bevan. Hi, guys. Recently started listening to your show. Where have you been, for sure?
Fucking hell.
Thank you.
Burn the bridges of our...
Fucking Johnny come lately over here. Okay, really enjoy it. Cool. I'm glad to finally have a show discussing Welsh politics. Listen to loads of news and some politics podcasts, but seem this small corner of the UK is always missed. Hard agree, Tristan. Please keep up the good work. I would class myself as centre-right with political views and understand you guys all more left-leaning. While I fear the day a party like Reform get their grips on power, I feel that your views seem to only represent the left of the political spectrum and would really love to hear someone on your show right of centre viewpoint. I worry that without this, it gives those on far-right chance to discount this podcast and misses representing a still significant part of the electorate in Wales. But as I said, keep up the great work. It's great to hear a well-researched rationale and fact-based podcast.
On behalf of the whole podcast, including Mel, let's say thank you to Tristan.
Diolch, Tristan.
I'm ready, winding you up.
Tell me off. No, to be fair, that was a lovely, lovely message. And, it's nice to see that we are well-researched and with good rationale.
That is a masterclass in doing like constructive, not criticism, but constructive feedback, but sandwiched in such a nice compliment that we're like, oh, thanks, Tristan.
Even I can't kick off. Even Robin won't threaten to kill him.
I haven't said that.
Let's not preempt it.
I've been thinking about this a lot since you put it in our WhatsApp chat, Mel. I have lots to say, but did you want to go first? Did you have thoughts?
So, my first thought was, as a new listener, thank you so much. And it is kind of worth kind of going through the back catalogue a little bit, because obviously we did have James Evans on the podcast from the Conservatives. I would say that, I worked for a Tory MP for a couple of years. So, there is definitely a variety of viewpoints on this podcast. And I think what is difficult is that, from my point of view, I can only speak from what I think is like a common sense point of view. And I think at the moment, when we look at the parties who are towards the right of the political spectrum, it's hard to see much common sense being exhibited there. So I understand that sometimes we seem like we're hypercritical of the Welsh Tories, of reform and so on. But I would personally find it difficult, neither like bringing left nor right into it, to praise anything that it's not worth praising.
Yeah, I think we talked about this at Wrexham as well, that idea of sort of a plague on all their houses. This thing of like, I think if Welsh Labour, and we've been very critical of Welsh Labour on the pod, I think we sort of do go where the news stories are. And yeah, guest-wise, we've had James Evans on. We sort of regularly asking Reform if they want to get people on as well. Like I think it's absolutely beneficial. We've never wanted to sort of exist in a vacuum, and I think that's exactly why 10 or so years ago with Brexit, these conversations weren't happening, and therefore people do feel like, oh, this isn't for them. So thank you for listening, thank you for the question. It's always nice, and I think Tristan's clearly pitching himself as a fourth host,
and I'm open to it.
I mean, Tristan, there are only 3 chairs, so
you could stand.
Hop on board, Tristan.
It's something. I mean, me and you, Mel, have had this conversation quite a lot. It's like, are we positioning ourselves in a particular place? Do we come across as aligned to a particular political persuasion? And it is something like we do think about kind of a lot, and especially like, journalistically with my reporting, it's something that I am super, super conscious of. What I think if I got that question like 5 or 6 years ago, I'd have been like, found it quite funny, because I've actually never really considered myself left wing, like at all in my kind of personal political outlook. What we said was, when we started doing this, is, okay, there's a few things. The first one is how far what is constituted as right has shifted.
This is so true.
So what is considered the acceptable right of, for instance, the Tory party has moved so far. I mean, people like, Kenneth Clarke, who were kicked out by Boris Johnson and are now considered absolute betraying centrists, who, 20, 30 years ago were, they were right-wing politicians.
Yeah.
And the discourse in the UK has shifted so far to the right in lots of ways that you can stay still and have moved left. I think that's perfectly possible. But from the podcast point of view, I think we had a few things which are kind of our editorial stances when we discussed doing this. And I think one of them is coming to it with the perspective that Wales is massively underrepresented, and the system, as currently constituted, kind of sets Wales up to fail. And I don't believe that is a right or left point of view. If you are, quote unquote, to the left, you are more likely to support devolution, but that doesn't mean that devolution as a construct is a particularly left-wing idea. Like the idea that, having like local and more regional autonomy is just a way of doing business. It isn't left or right. And I think because we are pro-Wales having its own say and having a democratically elected parliament as a nation, I think it's when you come into analysis and stuff with that kind of point of view, it immediately sets you at odds with people like Reform, who are incredibly disdainful of the idea of Wales having its own parliament, even though technically they're not outright opposed to it. You've got a Tory party that's always been very kind of a grudging engager in devolution. But the other point I'd also make is, if we analyse stuff, Wales is weird when you're trying to scrutinise it, because it's very hard to scrutinise people who haven't got any power and don't make any decisions.
This is the thing, isn't it?
And you've got 2 parties, ultimately, which have had influence on Wales. You've had the Conservatives for 15 years before the last general election, and you've had, from the UK government perspective, because although there's devolution, they have an enormous impact. You could even argue a disproportionate, more impact on what happens in Wales than the Welsh government in lots of ways. It's a hell of a lot easier to scrutinise them. You then have the other parties, which you have Reform. They are not presenting a real policy offering for Wales. So when Reform come and say, immigration is the root of Wales's challenges, because that is so objectively false. Because, firstly, look at a map. Wales has had barely any immigration. There is huge issues with how Wales is funded and how Wales is governed, but immigration is so low on any potential issue around that. If that is their only policy, you can't take that seriously. And then with the Tories, I went to their conference back in June, and we did analyse a lot of their stuff that they had about instant exclusions for having a knife, stuff like that. We looked at a whole range of their policies, and we kind of looked at them on their merits. But the problem is, because the Welsh Conservatives' offering is so abject by any measure, like even the Welsh Conservative people in there tell me they think it's shit. Like they're not really offering anything. Like, we can't treat this as something credible when it isn't.
No.
And then there's Plaid. It's tricky in terms of the scrutiny for them, because firstly, although they've been in the cooperation agreement, they haven't really had any meaningful power, and they have put some policies forward, and we have scrutinised them, and we've got their conference in like a month, and that's going to be when it's going to be really important that we really aggressively scrutinise what they're saying.
Yeah, when they're front and centre.
Because they're making some pretty fucking big claims about what they're going to be able to do, and that needs to be interrogated. In answer to the question, I can understand why if somebody was right-wing, they might look at the podcast and think, well, it's a left-leaning podcast. But I just think we try and just be, like, sensible.
Well, I can't think... If you are centre-right right now, who are you voting for? Do you know what I mean?
In Wales, yeah, absolutely. I think the fact that the Tories are going so far into this Reform Tribute Act, it is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose, a Vaughan Gething Labour could have been sort of, traditionally more centre-right than...
If the Lib Dems got their act together.
Yeah.
Like, there's a huge space for a Lib Dem, because obviously the alternatives to Labour, which aren't... I mean, I would say the Tories are very right now in outlook, and I'd say Reform are even further right.
Yeah.
There is such a huge gap of like centre-right, small c conservative. I mean, Mel, as you say, you've worked for the Conservative Party, and we've had lots of conversations, especially me and you, about like you putting forward the view of kind of farmers, which some people would... I'm not saying actually supporting farming and agriculture is a thing of the right, but it's a battleground that people like the Conservatives are more happy to have, aren't they? So
Yeah, absolutely.
it is tough, and one of the big problems in Wales is we don't have a centre-right.
No, there's a complete gap there. And, because I've had a couple of people who in a really lovely way have come up to me out and been like, love the podcast. And then obviously you guys are all going to be voting Plaid. And I do find that wild because and this is not me throwing this to the table. I'll only speak for myself. I genuinely don't know who I'll be voting for next year. Like genuinely, that's me. And because I still want to hear the facts. I want to hear what people are going to be putting out. And also, okay, I think at the moment it's easier right now to give Plaid an easier run than we're giving the likes of Reform. But like you said, Will, their conference is coming up. It'll be really interesting to see what kind of bold claims they're going to make and how realistic they are. I do think the chat with Sheen that we had here, you really kind of held into account on some of the things that he was unwilling to substantiate and kind of pack out.
Some of what they've put out over the last kind of 4 or 5 years around independence, I don't think bears up.
If they are in a position where they form the next government, believe, especially you're going to be holding them to as much account as you've held Welsh Labour for since you've been doing this.
But put it this way, members of UK Labour, I mean, some of them really don't like me, but some of them, before the general election, fucking thought I was one of the best things since sliced bread. And then they get into power and they're like, this guy's a bit of a dick.
I think we could, I say this with love, and I've seen it firsthand. I think all political parties dislike you.
Thanks, mate. I do appreciate that.
Really bridging the divide.
That genuinely really means a lot. Like,
Bipartisan bell end. Not my words. I think you're right. I think when when the Plaid conference comes in, also they've been in a weird position where, in some circles, they seem like the front runner, and polling suggests it's them in Reform at the moment, but they haven't really been at the front of a lot of the media coverage. I think because a lot of the things they were asking for in terms of HS2 money and Crown Estate, Elena then tried to sort of jump on those things of this is what I'm asking for. So then she gets into the front and centre of the narrative. And then on the other side of it, you've got Reform, making noises, poaching people, etc. So I think Plaid have weirdly not been like front and centre media-wise. And I think we sort of react to stuff that is happening as well. So I think, when it comes down to the debates, and when it comes down to, news stories, which are going to ramp up so much more before May, that's when it will become,
100%. And Plaid are going to face quite a lot of challenges kind of in policy areas where their traditional voters are probably not going to like some of the things they're going to have to say if they want to kind of step away and challenge Labour. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens over the next few months with them.
Yeah. And I mean, one of Plaid's kind of central things is they don't think Wales is properly representing, gets the attention it deserves. And that is a view I subscribe to. And this whole podcast exists based around that premise. Exactly. But that doesn't mean we agree with Plaid. It's also, I've got to say, I went to a policy launch from Mabon ap Gwynfor, who's the health spokesman for Plaid, and he did a really, I got a kind of 20-page document about plans for the NHS, and a lot of it was well, we're going to create this kind of, this thing of doing things, it's quite administrative in how they're going to make changes. And then Nigel Farage says, we're going to reopen coal mines. And it's
you're trying your best.
We have 45 minutes a week. Where do you want that kind of energy directed? And it is a balance, and I'm not for a minute criticising people for asking that question. I think it's a totally reasonable one, and it's a question we have to ask ourselves every single week. Are we being balanced? But balanced isn't just saying the same thing about every single party. If a party comes out and has people at their conference who say, oh, one of the reasons the royal family have got cancer is because of the vaccines. We can't treat that as credible compared to a party that says, well, maybe we need to combine health boards and have a more regional approach to healthcare. They are not the same.
Yeah, they're different conversations.
And I think it's an indictment of certain areas of the media where, the last sort of X amount of years, they've had to be platformed in the same amount. We have one from this side, one from this side, and you are treating it the same when some things aren't.
Oh, exactly. Genuinely, Tristan, thank you so much for the question.
Really great feedback. Thank you so much.
So we previously spoke on a podcast about the really tragic death of Heaven David, who we've had on the pod, and clearly all of our condolences to his family and friends after that. What his death means is there's going to be a by-election in Caerphilly. So Caerphilly is a seat which Labour have held since 1999. He had a 11-point majority, and now that goes out to a by-election, which is going to happen on the 23rd of October, I believe. Yep, the 23rd of October. And this is elected under the old Senedd rules. It's not the new ones. That doesn't change until next year. So what I really want to discuss is what this means, because this is potentially really huge, not just for momentum and direction, but how the Senedd is going to run in the last 9 months of the term. So Reform and Plaid are both, polling suggests they are more likely to win it than Labour is.
Can I ask, just at this point, do you think that this will be treated as a kind of indicator of what the mood is at the moment?
And I think it will be treated like that. It'll be treated like that by the parties, and it'll be treated like that by the analysis. So Labour are obviously throwing everything into this. They if they were Labour to hold Caffili, that would be such a shot in the arm for Leonard Morgan going into it would change the narrative about them being unable to win. It'd be so motivating. It's going to be such something that they're pouring so much resources in. But so are Reform and so are Plaid Cymru.
Has there been polling?
So there has been polling. It was by a polling company called Find Out Now. Now, it wasn't specifically on Caffili. So when Plaid put out a thing saying how they were the favourites for Caffili based on this polling, but it wasn't local, hyper-local, it was across the whole of Wales. And also Reform only had 2% of the vote. If they're in
Was it a bit Lib Dem bar chart type polling?
Oh, love that,
yeah. Kind of. So, but essentially, I think it's fair to characterise it as a three-way shootout between the three parties.
Sure. So quite indicative of where polling is in the Senedd for May.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's going to be interesting is, so we've had some by-elections in Wales recently. We had some earlier in the summer, which Reform won quite a few. We then had one in Grangetown in Cardiff. And these are council by-elections. They're relatively small amount of votes. You can't indicate huge national trends on them.
And also they tend to be quite personality-led as well, don't they? The 100%. People, they'll know it's their neighbour and so on.
Yeah, definitely. But that one in Grangetown, the Greens won it, kind of coming from nowhere, took this Labour seat. The mood music I was getting from people from all parties down there was that Labour are in big, big trouble, especially in urban areas.
The Greens are the only people who have leafleted me and canvassed 2 separate batches. I haven't had anything for anybody else.
Really? Are you in? Do you live?
I'm Cardiff West.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting. The
Yeah.
only thing I've seen is a sponsored Facebook advert by the Conservative.
really, let's have a look at kind of the data for it. So, if Reform were to win, that'd give them 2 MSs, which obviously, from a momentum point of view, really, really important. If Plaid were to win, obviously, it suddenly starts this narrative that Plaid are winning in very traditional Labour areas.
Yeah.
And if Labour were to win, it creates that, oh, actually, could we be okay? I think it sounds weird, but if Labour were to win, I think the worst thing that could happen is for them to think, oh, actually, things aren't as bad as we think because we held on to Caffili.
Sure.
Whatever happens, it massively affects how the Senedd is going to work in the next 9 months. So, can I give you some maths?
Oh, I'd love it.
Would love some maths.
Okay, so 60 members of the Senedd. For our audio listeners, Mel, what were you?
I did like feed me the maths.
Yeah. Like a cartoon bunny on a sweet corn. I
love that. Like a yes. ASMR for our listeners there. Enjoy.
So
Boing. Don't know. No idea. Sorry.
Some people say we're too silly, and I just don't agree. You know,
We were trying really hard this week
we're
as well.
trying so hard.
We had I got a message from Mel after the last pod went out going, I never thought I'd say this, but I think we might have been too silly.
No, we're politicking this week.
I've switched from coffee to tea today.
I see.
To try and limit the
Have you?
silliness.
Okay.
We're listening, we're learning, we're trying to do better.
My mum will really appreciate the
There
change. So 60 members of the Senedd.
You know what else should appreciate it? Sorry. Please continue. Maths.
So 60 members of the Senedd. Labour had 30. If they don't hold Caffili, that will take them down to 29. And why is that significant? Because to pass their budget, they need 31. So what they were able to do last year is rely on Lib Dem Jane Dodds to give them her vote, and that got them to that 31 figure. If they go down to 29, they can't rely on Jane Dodds anymore. So they will have a few options. So in the Senedd at the moment, as currently constituted, there are 14 Welsh Conservatives. There are 13 Plaid Cymru. There's 1 Lib Dem, there's 1 Reform, and there's 2 independents. So I'll come on to the independents in a second. So if Labour were to lose Caffili, the only way they can get something through in the Senedd is either with the support of the Conservatives or Plaid, which I think would be really, really hard as a negotiation.
I mean, they're not going to do that just before an election, right?
Why would you?
Right.
If you've got the chance to give Labour a bloody nose before the election.
Especially for Plaid, who've been accused of being in bed with them during the collaboration agreement. They want to show that there's nothing there, and the Tories, as sort of establishment parties, they don't want to be saying.
Yeah, and what could the Welsh Labour offer? You're not going to give them a seat in the cabinet. You're not going to be able to really bring in any policy. So what could you even offer them as a sweetener to make them do it? I don't see that happening. So there's basically 4 MSs under this scenario, 5 if Reform were to win in Caffili. So your options are, you get Jane Dodds and...
On speed dial. Jane, we need some help again. I'm sorry.
We should actually say, last week when we talked about buses, I didn't give the Lib Dems credit for their role in driving forward the cheap bus fares in Wales. So here's your hat tip to the Lib Dems. Fair play. That was something that they did as part of their deal to get the last budget through. So, cool. Stop egging my house.
A vile bunch.
If you get Jane Dodds on side, you then need to either get Reform to back you. I think never in a million years would Reform do that.
Yeah.
Also, never in a million years would Labour want to get their budget through with Reform.
No, imagine. All of these just feel so unfeasible.
What a coalition.
So you then have the 2 independents. Sorry, just for people who don't know, an independent is someone who's sitting outside of any party within the Senedd. And there's 2 of them. One of them is Russell George, who was a Tory, but was expelled because he's facing charges over alleged election betting. Mm-hmm. Okay. The other one is the former Plaid Cymru MS, Rexom Owen, who was suspended from Plaid after being found to have inappropriately touched and sworn at 2 women while drunk on a party night out.
Elected representatives of this country. Let's remind ourselves of that. If they could, I'm going to swear, just fucking behave. That would be great. Carry on.
So how do they get this through if they lose Caffili? Because you're either going to have to convince Plaid or the Conservatives. I think you can probably get Jane Dodds on side.
Yeah.
But not just and I don't say that flippantly, she has shown an inclination to want the machinery of government to work.
Yeah.
And then you've got to either get reform or a man who's facing vetting charges or a man who was suspended for inappropriate behaviour. Like, there's no good options here. The only good option for them is to, bloody win Caerphilly.
And what are they going to try and get through before May? Forgive me, budget?
So they've got some policy, some legislation they'd still like to get through before the end. I don't think it will necessarily be hard to get the legislation through because I think there's some legislation that's come through. I think Plaid might be inclined just to support because they agree with it.
I guess also there's been committees, but like cross-party type stuff. A lot of people from Plaid presumably would have worked on the same legislation. Or
at very worst, they'll abstain, which means it'll get through.
Right.
The budget is a different kettle of fish. So the budget's a bit interesting at the moment because Mark Drakeford has basically made the next budget the same as the last budget, but has left some money for the new government to allocate where they want, which is nice. It's just good governance, potentially, some would say. If they can't get that budget through, that's huge. So, but what Labour will probably do is try and use this maybe as like a way of going after Plaid and saying, look, if you're not going to vote this through, how can people be serious about you in government?
Well, there's similar conversations at the last budget, right? Like how dare you stop Wales getting this record levels of funding? That was the party line. So when is the budget?
So the budget will be into the new year. So you're looking at kind of March time, but there will be preliminary budget. So you have you have preliminary votes, and that I think happens in like late autumn. So there'll be plenty of stages to it. It doesn't need to pass until the very last vote, really.
Yeah.
I believe.
It's such a sticky situation for Labour. Like you said, the only feasible option here, or workable option they have, is to win.
Yeah.
They lose it, they're buggered.
Yeah.
So they're throwing a lot of resources at it, money, manpower.
Yeah, everything. They have to.
Are they confident? Are you speaking to people?
I find reporting on this, like we have to report on it, we have to talk about it because obviously because of the context of this vote and the reason that we're having this by-election is incredibly sad. And I've not wanted to over-politic it until the by-election was announced. Once the by-election was announced, I felt able to do it.
Sure.
But
on that note, could I just ask, do you think it's because we're so close to an election that they have contested it?
Yeah.
Did you think that they might just leave it uncontested?
Because in other situations where this, of the sitting member had passed away, then there have been examples of other parties not contesting, right?
Yeah. So the thing is, because at the moment, like not for the next one, but previously in Welsh elections, we've had both the constituency MS and the regional MS. When someone's elected via the regional lists, if that member was to pass away, the next person on the list just takes over. So there's no contest because essentially in the regional list, you're not voting for an individual. So basically when Stefan Lewis died, Delith Jewell just took that place because she was next on the list because Stefan Lewis hadn't been quote unquote elected directly. Plaid Cymru had been elected and he was top of that list. When someone's elected directly, if I lived in Caffili and I've cast that vote, I have voted for that person.
Yeah.
And if that person who I voted for isn't there, I should have the right as a voter, some would argue, to choose someone else. Because I voted directly for the person, not the party.
100%.
So I wouldn't begrudge people putting stuff up for election. But I think the level of resource going into it will be because we're ahead of an election.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? And it's all, linked in with the really sad situation that's going on around it.
So what I think would be quite interesting is that poll I mentioned before. I spent a bit of time looking at the underlying data. All the usual health checks that this is one poll. You can't read into this as exact, but it does tally what we've seen in other polling. So it breaks down the share of the votes based on age. So between people aged 16 to 29, it's quite a big group, age 16 to 29, one party is almost 25 percentage points above every other party. Which party do you think that is?
Plaid.
Yeah, I think it would be Plaid. How annoyed are you that you're 30 and outside of that bracket, by the way?
Oh, it feels like you're the X Factor of the over 25s. That's what I'm so firmly out of that bloody bracket now.
I hated that when I had to click into the older demographic and lumping me in with a fucking 44-year-olds.
Yeah, it's like, 30 to 49. We're not the same.
Dreadful.
Exactly.
Never had a Game Boy.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine it's Plaid.
Plaid are on 42%. Who do you think is next on 19%?
In that age demographic?
Yeah, the 16 to 29.
Reform.
Oh, I was going to go Labour, but now I think you're right. I'm going to go Labour, you go Reform.
It's Reform. Fuck. Just behind Reform, we got the Greens. Labour are on 10%.
Wow.
In fourth. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay.
That does tell us a lot, doesn't it?
And that's 16 to 29-year-olds.
Yeah, so it's not like crazy young across the board. It's not the kind of 16 to 21.
Yeah.
Obviously this isn't new in Wales, but it'd be very interesting to work out the 16 and 17-year-olds. I find this still very fascinating, like the amount of 16 and 17-year-olds who are voting and where they're skewing, because it's such a big thing within UK-based politics.
I do wonder how much Keir Starmer's lack of goodwill towards Keir Starmer nationally, how much that's having an effect on this.
True.
You know how how it was unfashionable to like the Tories, amongst young people. I do feel like it's hugely shifted to Keir Starmer. Yeah. I think, young people still dislike the Tories as well. But I think there is a very much, we hate Keir Starmer, even if we're not sure why.
I think Gaza's had a massive influence on that narrative as well.
Yeah, 100%. So I do wonder how much influence that's having in Wales.
At Green Man Festival, which I was at in end of August, I think almost every band I saw ended their set with "Fuck Starmer."
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you want to hear the breakdown for over 75s?
Yeah.
So which party do you think is highest with 43% of the vote?
Conservatives.
Reform. Next, it's the Conservatives on just 22.
Big old gap.
And then it's Plaid and Labour on about 12, 13%. Green Party, not a single person.
Yeah, that's kind of how I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm. The reason I went Conservatives is that I thought that, and clearly this is me, and this isn't correct, but I thought that people of that age would be so in their habit that they wouldn't be open to voting for a new party. But so that's so interesting. They're like, no, we are listening.
You are. I mean, you're barking up the right tree because it is far and away the largest Tory demographic. It's the only one where they get over 20% of the vote.
Sure.
We can put this up, but this is like the breakdown by parties and the ages. So as you can see, basically every age group you go up, Reform gets stronger. Every age group, but Labour are weird because the Labour are really high, are doing all right in 30 to 39, but then it drops as they get as people get older. Except for the young people really hate Labour. Like really young people hate Labour.
Yeah.
Plaid Cymru, young people bloody love Plaid Cymru, and that tallies with what we know about people identifying as Welsh and stuff like that. So there's only two parties where there is much of a difference between men and women. So men and women for each party tend to be within 1 or 2 percentage points of each other, and one of them is Reform, where far more men are voting Reform than are voting than women. So men, 33% of men are voting Reform, only 24% of women. And the only other one with a difference is the Greens, where only 4% of men are voting for them, but 10% of women are.
Yeah. There was a stat from years ago about men not wanting to wear tote bags or recycle because they were worried it would make people think they were gay. So there's a real sort of fragile masculinity around. I mean,
there is something more indicative of homosexuality than having a tote bag, and that's having sex with men.
Sure, yeah. That's number one. Yeah. You might say. But I don't know. I've never seen a man wash out a yoga pot and thought that's a homosexual man. Never. And I can say that.
Have you ever seen a man wash out a yoga pot?
Too many times.
Yeah. Rules are rules in the Mel and Will household.
You come over, you're washing out your yogurt.
You're bringing a yogurt and you're washing the yogurt bar out.
Was it a high protein yogurt?
Oh, 100%, yeah, exactly.
Love a protein yogurt.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
They do taste better, I think.
What flavour do you go for?
Strawberry.
Interesting.
Yeah,
An
strawberry.
Arla.
Yeah. And what I might do if I'm feeling extra gainsy, I might sprinkle in half a serving of my chocolate protein powder.
That sounds nice.
So it's like chocolate strawberry.
Yeah, very strong.
That is a lot of protein as well.
Can you guys?
Yeah.
I'm hedged.
Yeah. I haven't shit for a week.
So I'm so angry all the time.
Caffili vote, I think it's going to be fascinating from a political point of view. I think it's got the potential to get nasty. It's going to set the context for which we debate over the next 9 months.
So October 23rd.
23rd.
Okay, so about 6 weeks to go for that one.
Yeah. Emergency pod.
Maybe.
Feels like it. Get the button ready.
We also need to get a button.
Yeah. We'll do that. We'll do that first. Yeah. So guys, before we wrap up, I wanted to show you something that a listener sent me, and it's really, really sweet. Okay. And it's basically, they've been at the Llyfrgell Genedlaethol, the National Library in Aberystwyth, and there's a Welsh art kind of exhibition on at the moment, and this is by Owen Bala, and we'll get producer Darryl to put this up on YouTube as well. And it's a map of Wales with 4 Wales, C, England, and then unwaith eto, which means yet again. And they sent that to us and said, thank you for everything that you're doing to reverse this.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Isn't that lovely?
that's so nice.
Such a nice thing to do. And it's it's by artist Owen Bala, and he made that in 2016. Which, we could discuss why he felt that was relevant in 2016, obviously. But, I just thought that was a really sweet thing that somebody had sent us.
That's really, really nice. So, and all he had to do was wait 8 years for this podcast to come out. Just waiting there, not painting at all. refreshing his podcast apps.
And here we came.
That's very sweet.
Very lovely.
Yeah, that's very heartwarming. It's felt very wholesome the last couple of pods doing a live one, because you meet people who are actually really into it, and it's really nice.
It's great.
Yeah.
We really appreciate all the comments. We love the fact that you guys are sharing it with people,
Yes.
and it's just fun to see. I've seen a couple of people wearing the merch as well, which is very, very sweet. One of my best friends texted me, said with his a screenshot of his cart to show that he'd basically got a hoodie and a t-shirt. I was like, I haven't seen you check out the cart yet.
Yeah. Let's
no
see your money, mate.
Shout out to Duncan.
I've got a lot of very full online carts, which just goes, oh, you've still got this in your cart. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
don't forget about us. I wanted to give a shout out as well to the lovely boy who I walked past in Victoria Park the other morning. He looked like he was on his way to school, and he just went past in the most teenage boy way ever, went, love the pod.
Yeah.
And he just walked away. Don't know who you are, but thank you so much for listening.
That's sweet.
Nice. Cool. My name's Will Hayward.
My name's Robin Morgan.
My name's Mel and Will. Bye-bye.
Bye.